Hello, as Bavaliam Shiaght Laa agus Shiaght Laa. Sé Robert a Carslach Mish. I'm Bob Carswell, and I'd like to welcome you to this, the first edition in the new series of Shiaght Laa. The name of this programme, Shiaght Laa, means 7 days. But in fact, for the most part of this evening, we'll be looking forward 6 days to next Wednesday, the 25th of January. But there are a couple of other things to note in your diary before then. As we heard in the last series of Shiaght Laa, the Manx Museum in Kingswood Grove in Douglas is celebrating its centenary since opening to the public in November 1922. As part of those celebrations, there's an ongoing exhibition, Taitash the Chiad, Museum 100, showing some of the iconic items from the museum's collections over the years, including some rarely seen and perhaps never before displayed objects. Meanwhile, at the House of Manannan in Peel, the exhibition of the work of the influential and highly regarded artist and art educator David Fletcher continues for another month until the 26th of February. Apart from the various traditional music sessions and many other gigs which take place throughout the island, this Saturday, the 21st of January, there'll be a concert in Bride Methodist Chapel at 7:30 with Gareth Moore and friends. Admission is £10 on the door, and the concert is followed by an opportunity for a chat over refreshments. Laa'l Paul gorinach genna a tale as bes mor slai. Laa'l Paul Ellen as glen, palcha a tale the arrow was men. Os Shan rechrína den shen, vis cor feishnas nach bias of lein rechit, is Jean na vis tachet leis an Emshire, Laa'l Paul, and huegolaias feed Jera Gowrie. Te versioen skira macaronicnius, sigilgach leis de ogel sa vul, Laa'l Paul bright as clear, palcha menja for the cheer. Ten la shaw jinu erdelia Jane Arsenal nu Paul. Eschen was Saul as Tarsus segetoyacht, as vei tran les Christinen. Ach vei a red gus Damascus treva sledentjen de aignega, lug de fagen, as vei jin dolrish tameld, egg and silja. Ach de argen mechion a varrel eg nu Paul mechion mren goil arn ons over an aglish. De chartans de lai krel na rau per jena Texan shen scrut Egerson, ach vajint na sanmi, de chorsjach relen, de forst jenu burris an aglish sulling shaw. The 25th of January is the feast day of St. Paul, and people tried to predict the state of the world from the weather that day. A longer saying in Manx translates as, Paul's day, stormy and windy, famine in the world, and great death of mankind. Paul's day, fair and clear, plenty of corn and meal in the world. There's a shorter version dealing with the second part of that, Paul's day, bright and clear, plenty of meal throughout the land. So, some people may wish to look out to see what weather we get next Wednesday the 25th of January, Aal na Hal, just in case. Merish na fiddler an eggen trein nullig, esh haach vid mir is graimach ri. De graiach heishin shis kujach, gaushin esh taiach dernen suri. Os yn yr shen, tradisiwnach sy gilg, te chitmach de velnen dunje vis goil na erinjach. As tamim erinjach moers burtjach, ons liadien glade jen chan ren wee. Wel de jaru te de ren verskira as verslura, as de jen de ren mona in a goelish, cor kujach en verskira de jinusus en gidarn jen verelja, as kujach de sly goil shen maar grai falsa. Ach, grai ffyrniach na grai falsa, dyna wist yn fen eggs yn yr ein sien. She yn eriniach da sy'n TG na ni as an overrock, cymulsus reert na chira. The island's agricultural production has traditionally been of mixed and small-scale farming, and that's still in evidence, although there's a trend towards larger specialist agricultural production units these days. At one time, farming was all about production and the area used for it. In more recent years, though, there's the realisation that the countryside is an important resource in other ways. Well, I went to find out more about that in the light of a forthcoming event. Next Wednesday evening there's going to be a presentation at the Centenary Centre in Peel about the Agri-Environment Scheme, and David Bellamy of the Manx Wildlife Trust, you'll be presenting that. What is it and what's it aimed at?
We're coming to the end almost of our second year of the Agri-Environment Scheme here on the island. So what we're wanting to do is bring all of the farmers around our island together and give them an update of progress, where we are, improvements we're making to the scheme, and give them some case studies of some work that farmers have been doing around the island that's had great benefit to wildlife, and then look to the year ahead, so they can start thinking now and planning ahead of what activity they're going to be doing on their farm and what support is available for that.
And what's the involvement with the Manx Wildlife Trust itself? How is it involved with the scheme?
The scheme is a government-run scheme. It's owned by DEFA, and they designed it, and it's their scheme to manage. What they've done is they've brought Manx Wildlife Trust on board as the delivery partner, and we go out on farms and we provide advice and support, and we also help draft applications for farmers, do an awful lot of help with paperwork, and then we also go out and we check that works that have received government funding have been done to the expected standard as well.
We think of the island as a beautiful place with a lot of greenness and wonderful scenery, but of course that's very much related to the farming industry itself.
Definitely. So in 2022, 72% of the Isle of Man was declared as farmland on the annual farm returns. And what I really like about this scheme is, for I think the first time, it's really recognising that farmers are truly the custodian of the Manx landscape, and then we've got so much to thank them for looking after that landscape that we cherish so much here on our biosphere and all the wildlife contained therein.
The work of the Trust then in developing this scheme with DEFA, what's involved in it? What's in it for the farmers?
The scheme is open to all farmers on the island, all active farmers, and it's completely voluntary, so they can take it or leave it. And we've seen it. We've had really good uptake so far. 160 different agricultural businesses in the first year alone, and the reason they're joining is because thankfully the scheme is very well funded. So there's up to £2 million available per year to reward nature-friendly farming here on the island. There's 43 different recognised initiatives. So I'm pleased to say that there's something for every farm, definitely on the island, and it's a difficult time for farmers now, so it's nice to have that financial support available for nature-friendly farming here on the island.
The history of the scheme then, the scheme originally started some time ago, but there's been a bit of a lapse now. It's been taken up again.
That's right. So at the start of this century there was a pilot agri-environment scheme that never left the pilot stage, and it was limited to only 30 farms, and it had a very small budget. And then unfortunately that budget was withdrawn in 2012 when the government was quite cash strapped. However, as of 2021, the scheme was relaunched, and the big difference this time is it's open to the whole island, all 350 farmers on the island, and it's now well funded.
Although it's been running for a fairly short time in its new form, you've had quite successes already, and it's really something to build on for the future.
Definitely. So in the 80 months I've been involved, I've done over 320 farm visits, which is to almost 170 different farms. Just in terms of the land I've been on the Isle of Man, I've been to about 70% of the farmland, which is half of the whole island. We had 160 farms participate in the first year. We're going to have even more this year, and we won't know till the end of the financial year how many that's been. So it's been really encouraging just how keen and willing farmers are to engage with us.
The areas that the scheme covers are very wide, very diverse.
So amongst the 43 different initiatives, there's some really obvious ones like new habitat creation, so new wetlands, new woodlands, but really they're a really small part of the scheme. What we're really looking to do is to reward existing farming practices where they are beneficial to wildlife. And they can be things like leaving your stubbles from a cereal field all winter, ungrazed, unsprayed, unburnt, because a lot of our red-listed rare farmland birds benefit from habitats like that. But also if you have special hay meadows, or if you're grazing next to the sea, which really benefits our chough, a really star Manx bird. If you're doing any sort of farming practice where we can recognise that there's a great ecological benefit, then there's financial support to reward you for doing that. I have spoken to an awful lot of young farmers, not as many as we'd like, but there's lots of people coming in with fresh blood and lots of interest into the industry. Well, one thing we have found is that younger farmers tend to not have the same knowledge of farmland wildlife as maybe the older generations, especially some of the stuff that's become more scarce in recent years. So we're working with all farmers, young and old, and doing some training on the wildlife that they can find on farms.
And one of the positive aspects of the scheme as well is that you've rediscovered species that were thought to have been lost many years ago.
Yeah, so we've had a whole host of interesting discoveries in the last year. We've seen a wildflower, skullcap, which hadn't been seen since Queen Victoria was on the throne. And just last year we found some breeding lapwings on a farm in the north of the island. And again, we thought they were a bird that had very recently been lost as a breeder. And I could go on, including a corncrake calling in the north of the island last summer as well. So we're really looking forward to this spring and summer to see what the island's got in store.
And so next Wednesday then, perhaps you could give us the background of that.
So it's Wednesday the 25th at the Centenary Centre in Peel at 6:30 p.m, and it's open to all active farmers on the island, all 350 farming businesses. We did something very similar when the scheme launched about 18 months ago, and that was to tell them what was available. What we really want to do now is recap and show them all the things that we've been doing with the farming industry, some of the things that work really well, some of the areas where we've made improvements, and really I want to make sure that all farmers are aware that support is there for nature-friendly farming, go through some case studies, and so that they can plan the year and couple of years ahead in their rotations and in their farm plans. Delivering this scheme is now becoming a key output of Manx Wildlife Trust.
This is a big responsibility that the Manx Wildlife Trust has taken on then. So what team have you that is going to deliver this?
Yeah, so it is a big responsibility, but it's a hugely rewarding one. And while myself, I'm the Agri-Environment Officer here at Manx Wildlife Trust, I can't do this all alone. So now Agri-Environment delivery is becoming a real team effort. And we're bringing all of our team on board, so whether they're experts in botany or bird life or climate change, everyone's now working and looking to utilise this scheme as best we can here on Ireland.
David Bellamy, the Agri-Environment Officer for Treish Bay 5 Vanning, the Manx Wildlife Trust. And that presentation about the Agri-Environment Scheme will be at 6:30 this coming Wednesday evening, the 25th of January, in the Centenary Centre in Peel. Tá sin gréad de minic an Shiaght Laa de bhfuil béin san éilíonn fós de sláimh é araltacht de Laa'l Paul ons tachertan, bhfuil sin sport, na goilerein, na claypert an uirdan. Dar a cortas de rawan luchtai stanlach as den gurgin goilarn ons een sorte jaune seres ta greiru mask ons Castile Rushen. As an Jochen Samuel Rutter skriwer een son te jean, olimach jaun giu joch mestjalach as gi, a rein an leden seeltach sha himnen. Chamashen heng tradisiwn stiach ons lioren jouw gaas lachjen soort enmesich chapboek Vakule kreke kadjeren, as gauws like toyacht for die moest dechied blener de henne begging the sergeant a shen, clay the White Boys. True Jeanette Sophia Morrison was sly clay pischen jenawimit Jane Verl Vandenach. Ach sonne goed smoot ta podden clay pischen ruach leer jochteren skriewse Verl. The Rushen Players came into existence in 1948, and they performed their first play in January of 1949 in Port Erin. It was Noel Coward's Hay Fever that they did that first time. The Rushen Players will be performing in Port Erin again next week, with the first of 3 nights at the Erin Arts Centre on Wednesday the 25th of January for their play Secondary Cause of Death, a play written by Peter Gordon. It's 1939 and storm clouds are gathering over Europe. Having inherited Bagshot House, Colonel Charles Craddock has converted the property into a hotel for the discerning visitor. Well, soon Inspector Pratt arrives once again at Bagshot House bearing grim news for the Colonel. And that's just the beginning. Who is the strange Polish Count? Is Henrietta really an army captain? And where does the flamboyant thespian Cardew Longfellow fit into the picture? When Joan Maple's sister Cynthia arrives to stage a murder mystery evening, it's not long before Pratt's visit turns into a chaotic nightmare as the bodies pile higher than ever. I went along to one of their rehearsals, and I heard from the director, Catie Angus, and from cast members Juan Bridson, Graham Roberts and Sharon Roberts. We'll also hear Juan and Graham in a scene from the play. We're here in the Erin Arts Centre, and this is going to be the scene of a presentation by Rushen Players fairly shortly, and the director of it is Catie Angus. So what's the background to the play that you're about to present?
Well, this is the 3rd Pratt play we've done. There's a trilogy, and we've actually done them in the wrong order, but our audiences are hopefully quite used to Pratt and the surrounding mysteries and bodies and whodunits. Right. So it's a continuation of that, really. Right.
So you're saying Pratt now. Who is Pratt?
Detective Inspector Pratt. It's George Algernon Pratt. So he's the bumbling policeman that is just so bad he's atrocious. But he has some really funny lines. It's full of malapropisms and wrong words, and he's always had great laughs in the past, and it's always, the audiences have always loved these, so we're hoping the 3rd one will continue in that vein.
Now, this is by the Yorkshire playwright Peter Gordon, but as you say, it's part of a trilogy, but each play is standalone, so audiences will certainly not need to know the characters in advance, but they certainly grow to love them during the play.
Yes, that's it. I mean, some of the characters are the same. Obviously, Pratt's the same, and the characters are all caricatures in all of the plays, so they're all buffoons and over the top, and so it's just more of the same, really, but we're hoping it will go down well.
Yes, Agatha Christie only managed one body in the library, but Peter Gordon's rather outdoing her here.
Yes, we've got, how many bodies have we got?
Perhaps not give too much away.
Yeah, several. Let's say several.
So people will need a calculator to tally the body count.
They'll need to take notes. I think that would be a good idea, to take notes, keep notes throughout the play so they know what's going on.
So we say it's going to be on here at the Erin Arts Centre shortly, so perhaps you could give us the dates and times and ticket prices and so on.
The ticket prices are £10 per adult, £2 for under 18s. The dates are 25th, 26th, 27th of January, so that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We normally do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but we've moved on a bit for this one. It was cancelled because we had COVID. It was due to go on in November, but several cast members, myself included, got COVID, so it had to be postponed. But we're hoping it'll go down well.
I'm sure it will, yes. Juan Bridson, you're playing Colonel Craddock in this, so what is the role of Colonel Craddock?
Well, Colonel Craddock is the owner of the manor house in which most of the action takes place. In this, I also get to play a second character called Cardew Longfellow, who's the thespian, late of the Hackney Empire and more latterly the Oldham Coliseum, pantomime and music hall review a speciality. Anyway, Cardew is invited to this murder mystery weekend, without giving too much away, to impersonate Colonel Craddock. And as the plot unfolds, you'll realise that's perhaps the least of the deceits that's actually being practised by the various members of the cast on one another. But no, it's a really good play to be part of. It's very good fun. Inspector Pratt's verbal gymnastics and complete incompetence. It's kind of a cross between Christie and Clouseau, isn't it, as a play?
Right.
That's the way it comes across. So it's been really good fun to take part in, and I'm really looking forward to the performances.
And Graham Roberts, you're playing George Algernon Pratt. So why did they choose you for this part, do you think?
Well, can I first say that I resemble that remark that you just made about Pratt? Sorry, what was the question?
Yes, playing Pratt now, it must be quite difficult because obviously with his malapropisms and changing metaphors part way, it must be difficult to remember that you've got to not correct yourself.
It is. This is the third time I've played this character, and it's always difficult because you think the right word, but you've got to say the wrong word, so you've got to somehow substitute the words, and it does cause a few problems. I just keep going over and over it until I've got it in my head that I've got to say the wrong word, so there we go.
And my Lady Isadora, you're playing in the part Sharon Roberts. So what's your role in it?
Well, I'm Lady Isadora Pollock, and I'm terribly, terribly posh, but I'm not all I seem.
Oh.
But I'm terribly posh all the way through, and I'm a little bit of one for the men as well. I do like to flirt a little bit as well with all the boys.
I was going to say, do you become a victim, but you can't really couldn't possibly say.
No, couldn't possibly say.
No.
Wrong question.
The wrong question. It certainly was. Yes.
Good Lord, I don't believe it. It's you.
Colonel Craddock, we meet again. It's been some time. A lot of water's passed under the hedge since then. Oh yes, a long time indeed.
Must say I was rather hoping for a lot longer.
Understandable, Colonel. In the circumstances, the very regrettable and unfortunate circumstances, if I may say so.
Sorry, old boy. I wouldn't like you to take offence.
Don't worry, Colonel. Your fence is quite safe. I have no need of it.
My fence?
Exactly.
Why should I think you'd want that, old boy?
Well, exactly what I was asking myself. It seems strange that you were so preoccupied with it.
Look, I don't wish to seem impolite, old boy, but is there a particular reason for this visit? I assume it's not social.
Well, regrettably, I only have time for antisocial visits, Colonel Craddock. The weight of responsibility lies heavily on those of us charged with the upholding of the law of the land.
Well, I hope it's not about that other business. I mean, it's been 3 years. I'm trying to forget. I'd rather not talk about it, old chap, if it's all the same to you.
Don't worry, Colonel. I fully respect your feelings. A tragic affair.
Yes, it was.
Such a pity your wife found out.
Oh, look, old boy, do you have to?
No, not another word. Thoughtless of me. I see you got the blood stain out of the carpet.
Really, old boy?
If I'm not mistaken, this used to be the dining room. I never forget a detail.
As it happens, this used to be the billiard room.
Yes, just as I thought. Total carnage. Many an investigator would have fled the scene in horror, Colonel, but not me. I have no fear.
Rushen Players, director Catie Angus, Juan Bridson, who's playing Colonel Craddock, Graham Roberts, who's playing Inspector Pratt, and Sharon Roberts as Lady Isadora Pollock. The play is Peter Gordon's Secondary Cause of Death. It's being staged at the Erin Arts Centre at 7:30 on Wednesday the 25th, Thursday the 26th and Friday the 27th of January. Tickets are £10 for adults and only £2 for under 18s. As Siananish as besort and treyer jit de chorkion Shiaght Laa and Shiaght. Shiaght Laa will be back next Thursday the 26th of January at 6 with Marilyn Crellin. But now from me, Bob Carswell, ach nish von Peen, Robert a Karslach, sled new.